late start. Welcome everybody. So I do need to read the little announcement that this meeting of the Open Space Committee is being recorded and broadcast on the town.
Tracy has them all.
Oh, okay.
It's being broadcast on the town of Barnstable's government access channel in accordance with Mass General laws. I must inquire whether anyone else is recording this meeting, and if so, to make their presence known. Hearing none, I'll just do a few quick introductions. I'm Lev Malakoff. I'm the chair. I live in Centerville.
Tracy Pratt, Katuitt.
Doug Payson, Barnstable Village.
David Gorel, Centerville.
Chris Clark, Town Council Liaison.
Ann Rowland, Centerville.
Kate Gulliver, Hyannis. Liz Lewis, West Barnstable.
Jen Ingleson, Town Office Manager.
And a couple in the audience here.
Oh, sure. Satchel Douglas, Hyannis.
Better seeing you with the planning department.
Right. Thank you all for coming. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to look at them. And I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
So moved.
Any second?
Second.
Okay. Then we vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Yeah, Lisa Crowley will not be here tonight.
Yes, so I did get a note that Elisa's not here and Farley's not here tonight, so. Okay, so for our agenda tonight, a few items I'd like to go over. Now, the first one is signage for trailheads. I think this is one of Doug's favorite topics. We've been talking about it for quite a while. The idea is to give people information about where are the trailheads when they're out and about. So if you're walking, biking, or driving along a road and wondering what's that area over here to the left or right of me, there's a standard sign that is used in many different areas. You've seen them in Harwich and other areas. It's a brown sign of a person hiking that lets folks know that this is an area that you can go for a walk. What I tried to do is put together so there's the symbol. It's a standard symbol that all the DPWs would be aware of that code, and they would be able to request a sign or have it made in their sign shop as a standard sign. So then the question is, well, where should they go? Where should we put them? So that's what I wanted to sort of start the discussion tonight, is I put together a spreadsheet, if you can pull up the list. So I started to put together places that I thought might be suitable for having this information available to people. And I did use, as a great resource, is Barnstable Land Trust has a layer of trailheads all through the town. Now, some of them include our conservation lands and our recreation areas, but they also include the Barnstable Land Trust, and they have some other entities as well. So maybe for the purposes of our discussion, we might be just mainly focusing on town conservation parcels. But certainly where the signs are installed is a second question, because if the roadway isn't under the control of the town, I'm not sure if that's an extra hoop to step through if, say, the trailhead's on Route 6A, which is a state highway. Whether, the town could put up a sign, or would they just make a call and say, do you mind, can we put up a sign? So I don't have the answer to those questions. That might be a staff question to DPW about how do we take it to the next level, actually get this thing implemented. So I guess at the...
Before you start that, I reached out to the Harwich Conservation Trust. Harwich is heavily, wherever there's a trailhead, there's a sign. And the land trust in Harwich coordinates with the town of Harwich. So they're on both the Harwich Conservation Trust properties and on the town properties. So I was thinking maybe we should also be reaching out to the Barnstable Land Trust and then Mass Audubon, because Mass Audubon has 3 sanctuaries in the town of Barnstable that could also, participate so that the public would know where they could go hiking.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea.
And I think this is particularly, if you look at the 2018 open space plan, one of the points that I think is unrealized is reaching out to underserved communities. And this is a way that we can do that and check off the box of one of the goals of the 2018 open space plan.
Yeah, and also a survey, there was a public community survey that was taken for the 2018 plan. One of the things the public said was that they didn't use trails because they didn't know where they were. And so this would obviously help that.
Okay.
Now, would they be just at the trailhead, or is it be roadside so that people know that to turn off to get to them?
Yeah.
Because
This is mainly information for people that are the motorists or the road users.
Yeah,
Or they
yeah.
could be biking or walking, but it's the sign you've seen next to the road.
Right.
And some of our areas are kind of down a road.
Yep.
Like Crooked Cartway, it's got a good amount of parking. It's off of Race Lane, so if the sign were down at near the parking lot, it wouldn't really help because you're already there.
Right.
But if it was at the corner of, say, Race Lane and Mill Road and Crooked Cartway, anybody going back and forth on Race Lane then would have, oh, there's a trailhead over here. And so some of them are a little bit different.
Yeah.
Some of them maybe they're really obvious and maybe it'd be a lower priority because you see a lot right there. But I think for the most part they're still valuable because at least it reminds you, oh, that's the trailhead or there is a trailhead. So
Yeah.
I think it's good marketing for our resource.
It's also the issue of more people in the woods, more eyes on what's going on. There's the ATVs and the motorcycles are back. This afternoon, I drove up Mary Dunn Road. There were ATV tracks going into the state area there, the Hyannis Ponds Conservation Area. That will be the route of the Cape Cod Rail Trail Bike Path, the extension that is going to begin this year. I've reported to Chris Nappy, the Natural Resources Officer, of pretty heavy motorcycle use on both the Treasure Trail and on the Hut Bottom Trail, which is through a town of Barnstable watershed property.
Okay, so I guess we can expand the list to include those things. At some point, we're gonna need town staff support, so just so that you're aware what we're talking about and what stage should we, hand this off? Because right now it's a spreadsheet, can be edited and added to. We can certainly work on that. So if there's any areas that we're missing, maybe after looking at this one more time, then we can hand it to Kyle and he can hopefully see what they can do with it. Yeah.
Thank you. Is this list, has that been circulated to the committee members?
Well, this is in the Laserfish.
Oh, I see.
So is it part of tonight's meeting material?
I see, got it.
So everybody, actually, why don't we do that? Why don't we make this your homework for the next meeting? Everybody take a look at the list, see what you think is missing. And then, next month, I'll print it out and we'll add the names of the different things, make sure we have them all.
Well, perhaps I can suggest, maybe it'd be helpful to do it in 2 or 3 stages, like start the program with a modest effort and work out the bugs and see who needs to talk to whom. If planning needs to talk to DPW or the grant writer to see what thresholds there might be to perhaps get this funded by non-municipal, non-town of Barnstable funds, if there's such an opportunity. So so perhaps we should consider this like a initial trial and work out the bugs and then do a second stage with a little more robust follow-up. Does that make sense? Get some traction.
Yeah, I
suggestion.
just, I'd have to figure out where do we cut it off at, and which ones do we wanna?
If you're going for grant funding, I'd say you wanna identify as much as possible when you go seek that funding.
Okay.
Just, I get where you're coming from, you know, you wanna bite off pieces at a time, but if you get funding for part one, then you're gonna have to
I
then
see.
seek out funding for part two in the future. So I think it's a good start. Why don't you guys come up with a list? I believe you've been in contact with Alice from our office, who's our grants coordinator, or somebody has been, maybe Doug, I think
She's, I was part of the communication back and forth, yes.
So she'll be the one helping to try to identify a potential funding source, which is always the sticking point on projects like these. And she's also gonna involve Chris Rogers, so she can, the asset management can be involved as well, because, we don't wanna make sure that we're not putting it somewhere we're not supposed to, or something along those lines. You brought up 6A, that might be another layer of complication, because that's state, and you'd like to think that you can just call up and say, hey, state, are you cool with this? But it's not that easy of a process, so, but the first step, I think, would be identifying the locations, and then from that, we can come up with a scope of, we can figure out we can cost it out, and then you can go for grants from there, so.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think we should be comprehensive and not have to go through the process 2 times
Okay,
if it's a process.
I get it. Mhm.
Once it's, hopefully.
I would
all
ask
of
a
them.
question also about donations or soliciting donations and the, how the town would look at that.
No, the town does not like the word solicit, I can tell you that. That we'd have to check with the legal department, and asset management would have to be involved with that discussion. I'm not the best person to ask something like that, but it's another one of those things that you would think would be easy, and like, oh, if the community wants to give money, why not? And then there's always seems to be a legal reason as to why not, but we can look into that for sure.
Great. Okay, so next item on the agenda, just touching on our spring walking weekend. I know that Farley has done an outreach to former walk leaders to try to see if they would be interested in organizing something again. We have our dates all set. One thing that I put together here.
Kyle, what's up with all these little things?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not sure what's going on. I can tell you what it's about.
Oh, there it is, there it goes.
Okay.
So, one of the we're kind of looking at the stages of getting the word out. So, at some point, we'll have all the walks and everything identified in a nice brochure. But in the meantime, we wanted to give people information that the weekend's coming, and then where they'll get that information when it becomes available. And so some of the media publications, I think, Doug, you mentioned that they have, these things that they can announce, well ahead of events. So this was kind of the verbiage I came up with, to let those outlets know, this is gonna be an event, we're having it on these dates, here's a link to get to the information. So we do have a relatively short URL that I think they made last year for us. It brings it into our main page, but the main page can have the announcement and can have the brochure and all that information. And then I created a little QR code to put on the flyer. So when we have a physical flyer that we can put up at the libraries and the fire station and wherever you guys can post things, folks that have the smartphone can then go directly to our page to see the schedule. So
And the ones that don't have the smartphone
then they would
capability,
use this.
yeah,
They would
okay.
use that in there.
Yeah.
If they don't have the internet, I don't know how much we can do for them.
Oh, I know.
But we will have
Well, but,
we'll have some physical brochures printed that we can distribute as well. So
Right.
that's the last
Okay,
avenue of getting the word out.
okay.
Okay. So that's what I have for those two topics. As you know, we're going to be updating this wonderful document, the Open Space Recreation Plan. Rather than try to dive into it deeply all at once, I thought maybe we could just take a little part of it and have some discussion tonight. I don't expect necessarily get through this action plan that we provided into our server, but I thought maybe we could start. And some of it was new to me because I wasn't involved in this document's development. Will probably be questions and comments we'll have. And then I guess the point when we actually get into developing the plan, there's going to be a consultant that's going to be doing this work. We'll be, somewhat informed and educated so we can provide them our input. So that being said, we've got a set of, I guess, 4 goals, and I
didn't print off any of that stuff, but it was sent to you guys. I didn't print off any of that.
No, but it would be up here,
Yeah.
and everybody was,
Yeah.
we informed everybody about it, so I just have a copy.
Yeah.
for it,
Is this
because
what
I-
you want to know?
So if we could scroll down to the first goal, looks like that. Now keep next page, yeah, page 3, I think. All right. Okay, so the first goal is to protect and maintain a maximum amount of open space to enhance environmental protection, recreational opportunities, and community character. So in all of these goals, there are a number of objectives, and each objective has some actions associated with it, identifies the different parties that would be implementing those actions, a priority, and then any funding if it needs funding to occur. So objective 1, continue to apply criteria for prioritizing land acquisition and protection decisions. The criteria reflect a comprehensive and up-to-date evaluation of recreation, conservation, and resource protection needs. So I'm still educating myself. Do we have such criteria other than our expertise? Maybe that's a question. The first action is to refine criteria, so to reflect a comprehensive evaluation of recreation, conservation, and resource protection needs. And then there's a bunch of factors listed in there. So I guess the question is, what progress was made since the last plan? And folks in the committee might help educate me. Yeah.
I'm aware that when the precursor to this committee was the land bank or open space committee that served the land bank, criteria were developed and has since been adopted by the Community Preservation Committee. And I believe the first criteria for acquiring land for open space would be for municipal water. And then I think there were like about 11 criteria, and it's on the CPC's website. Farley could tell us directly if she was here, but I believe that's pretty much been adopted and put into practice.
Mm-hmm.
So it's on the website.
Would we rank them then? Are you suggesting that, for example, like if value for water supply protection is the primary purpose, that should be at the top.
Yeah.
That has always, in my experience,
Yeah.
that has been the most prominent criteria for acquiring open space.
Location within a mass critical habitat area.
Another one.
What's that?
Yes. I don't know if this is a good time, but perhaps Kyle could advise us on what the expectations are from the update for the open space and recreation plan.
Yeah, so first of all, just a quick update that the council did approve the funding for the consultant, which is great. Working with procurement right now to get the RFP out as soon as possible. Unfortunately, that's looking like it's probably gonna be early March that it goes out, so we'll probably have to extend the completion date to the end of the calendar year, because we make it too short of a time frame, no one's gonna bid on it. So what I would kind of suggest is you guys, just as a committee, whatever you can do, kind of get comments to them in a written form about the current plan. You know, you might want to evaluate. I don't know if you want to go each action by action, that might be tedious, but maybe either goal or per objective, and just kind of give some feedback on each. And whatever you guys provide me, I can provide to whatever consultant we get on board, and that'll give them a really good head start on, because their first step will be to review the last one and figure out what exactly needs to be updated, what can be carried forward. So any sort of feedback like that, and I'm happy to work with you guys on, you know, kind of articulating that. But basically, any sort of feedback you can give us up front that I can give to the consultant that'll kind of expedite their review would be very welcome.
Okay. Well, I think, you know, only maybe tweak I would include when we're talking about people using the land and the recreational purposes, such as trails, bike paths, and maybe we talk about it a little bit more now. Is the network is to actually have those things connect when it makes sense. So the pathways network. So. So I guess the question is, you know, we're talking about having criteria, but we're not, I guess we're not at the point where we're comparing different proposals. You know, we usually get a proposal and we, you know, say that, you know, does it meet our goals or not? It's not like we're ranking projects because there aren't that many. But we are certainly looking at these issues when we're looking at a proposed acquisition. So the second item, develop a list of priority areas for acquisition and a set of measures to benchmark progress. So
Do we have
I
a
know if
list?
that's been done or something like that's been done.
We've never, do we have a list? Is there a list of priority areas that we sort of, the town has gone through, and what have we?
Knowledge.
So one question I have, you know, I think it's a great idea, but then one question I have and is the sensitivity of, you know, we might see that there are parcels that would be great to acquire for the different reasons, but then that information becomes public, and then the property owners, do they get nervous because now government wants to buy my land?
Do they get nervous or do they get excited?
They get excited.
The value goes up if it's a known.
Well, yeah, certainly if they can use that to gain a larger offer. So I'm not sure, you know, that's maybe a question for someone else.
Well, I can tell you that in a prior meeting under LAPC, this committee purposefully was guided by the legal department, was advised under a quorum to have members of this committee visit each of the water commissioners during a advertised executive session of the water commissioners, and a list was compiled and sent to the town manager about that and CPC, so that it was not in a public forum. It was an executive session held by the water commissions, and that was then compiled by our committee and brought to the sent to the town manager. So that has been done without it being in a public forum.
When you say the list was the list of meetings, the list of properties?
List of parcels. So under a quorum, like 2 members of this committee would visit the Katuitt Water.
You say under a
Commissioners.
quorum, I mean less than a quorum.
Correct,
Okay.
yes, I'm
Not
sorry.
a quorum.
Right. So fewer people then would trip a quorum, would ask to be on an agenda for the water commissions. And say 2 people would go to the Katuitt Water Commissioners meeting and requests that they then hold an executive session that is not public. And then it was requested of the water commissioners, would you please, it was explained, I was part of that, would you please evaluate parcels in your district that you could recommend the town for possible acquisition? What would be on your wish list? And it gave them an opportunity to look around their community, especially parcels related to water. So we kept it that refined. And then a list was then sent, shared with the town manager and the director, or the chairman of the Community Preservation Committee.
So wouldn't that list become a public document
No.
at the point it's sent to the
Was it-
manager?
Was executive session?
Yeah,
or-
it was an executive session. And all the
And now the
lists,
list is lost.
no, it's with the town manager.
How long ago was that?
2012 or something like that. It was started in 2012, I believe.
But we don't get to see that list. The I guess
Then it would be-
the people who were at the meeting know what's on it.
Right.
Okay.
And the chair shared, I believe it was.
Okay, so I guess the feedback loop is then the land becomes available at some point, and now we know, or somebody knows that was a worthy parcel, and it gets proposed by the water district to purchase it?
Yes.
Okay.
So, since then, things have changed. So I know that at least one parcel had been acquired by the town, but others have been sold. So things have changed. But there had been, prior to this, I can't speak for this council, but in the past, there was a standing point of view of the leadership of the town council that there was not a will to acquire new parcels for open space. I think that the general feeling was acquisitions of private property were taking property off the tax rolls, and it wasn't the will of the then sitting town council. So it might be different now, don't know. But anyways, I'm just saying that when it comes to updating the open space plan, that was what was one of the outcomes.
And that property that you think was acquired, do you think it was on a list
I know.
submitted?
One parcel in West Barnstable was on that list.
Okay.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, so I'm just,
And I should share with you that the town council, a year ago, council president, then council president Penn, established 5 ad hoc committees, and one was a committee to assess properties that the municipality owns. So that committee has yet to meet. There's been a competition for a meeting space with a videographer. So that will get going, but there will be a discussion about that from that ad hoc committee. So it's forthcoming. But I would suggest that you make recommendations and continue with the evaluation for the open space and recreation plan.
okay, so, all right, so I'm still trying to think where we would go with this when if we're listing priority areas. Maybe we're not identifying individual parcels, but general regions that would be useful to include in meeting our goals here. Okay. Reviewing protection status of town land bank conservation land.
I wonder if that's been
Conservation
done.
restrictions.
How do we know if any of these things been done between 2018 and now? Is there a review of town land bank and?
So I don't know, and
Conservation
maybe
land?
that's gonna be part of our education with help of staff.
Yeah, because I think, didn't we bring that up before, what has been, or Kyle maybe did, you kind of say at one point what you thought was done.
I said that the first step of the update will be figuring out what
Yeah,
has
yeah,
been done.
what's been
I'm not
answered.
sure that anyone's gone through the exercise to actually
Okay,
That's key.
check
Yeah.
X. So that's kind of what I was kind of envisioning. This discussion would be the first phases of figuring out how to go about that.
I would ask a question also, Kyle, about habitat management. I understand that the town, as part of the acquisition of properties, was charged with managing it, and there are cases where that has not occurred. So that would be another issue, and I'm specifically thinking about on the Treasure Trail on south of the railroad tracks. That was an open field in 2011, and I understand that the town was required to manage that as an open field and has not done that.
Yep, so any sort of concerns like that you guys have that you want to be kind of addressed in the open space committee, I'd kind of recommend getting like a list together that, again, I can pass on to the consultant, and then we can kind of, address them as we go through the process.
Well, and that would go under 1.1, resource protection needs, that if it was an endangered habitat and then it's just been left to,
Succession.
yeah, with invasive species.
Well, do we know, like, how many CRs the town has
Yes,
on properties?
That's another question.
Yeah,
is-
because
And
that's
what
a
are the
management.
management plans of
Yeah.
those CRs? What was required when the,
I know, because usually you try to visit properties at least once a year, just to see if there's dumping, there's, issues, or like you say, there's new growth but I don't think the town has that kind of, system in place. I don't know.
It's not my department, so I
Yeah, I
couldn't speak to
know.
that.
So I mean, with that might be conservation, Darcy Carl, or,
Perhaps, or
Yeah.
DPW, it's gonna be whoever actually has to go out there and do the work, so,
asset management?
yeah, I don't even know, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm thinking more conservation, but.
So this item 1C, we have on our old business every month, we talk about update on conservation restrictions. So
I know,
I'm
but
still
we don't
learning
know
about
what
how all
the
that
existing
works.
ones are.
And I reached out to, I forgot her name. Steph.
Connolly.
Yeah, so, I said, if there's anything that that we should be sharing with the committee. So, she's looking at reviewing things as they come in, and so if there's anything specific about an individual project, she can provide, feedback on those, but.
Attorney Connolly works with the legal department, that's.
So, I think, in our town, we have dedicated effort and in some regard, tax money, or, there's all these conservation restrictions which, are offsetting tax burdens and creating, valuable land for all these items that people of the town, including myself, don't really understand what we've got. So we've got wealth in the town that isn't really recognized for what it is, because it's, hard to get that information. So again, this is maybe a longer term, and maybe this would be in a recommendation, but to get that list and have it be usable and viewable, and people can, look up, what is the management plan for that parcel? It's, it's a town resource that, it's really hard to find out things, necessarily. I've looked at, registry of deeds and looked things up, and I found things on some and not on others, so, I know with databases and technology, there's ways to do this that, once it gets established, it's not that, big a lift to, attach a PDF to a point on a map, and you click on it and you read the CR. But I'm not sure, how we would get those wheels turning.
I'm just, reading about the Conservation Commission.
That might be a good issue for the consultant to address, is I know, for example, I can be on a trail and go through 3 different jurisdictions and have no idea, is it the Conservation Commission, is it Land Bank? You know, who owns this? You know, who's,
That's true.
Could you ask the consultant's scope of work to include a census of the town conservation lands and associated restrictions?
I think that's what the last consultant did.
Oh, they also did that.
It's already existing in 2018, it just needs to be updated. And I'm suggesting that finance department, Mark Milne is our finance director, has a running spreadsheet on parcels that are purchased by the town CPC. So it's scheduled on when it was purchased, what, if it was bonded out, you know, when the bond is done. So it should be easy to pull down that spreadsheet and see what has been purchased for open space and recreation since 2018, or whenever they shut the door on the last, I don't know when the which one was, the research was done and completed. Might have been before 2018 when it was actually done. So I do think that's easily retrievable, to be honest with you.
But at least it's probably on a computer.
Yeah, it's on the computer somewhere. So, bringing that forward would be, I think, very helpful. So continuing, so there's a second objective, continue the town's strong commitment to acquiring open space, consistent with criteria to evaluate protections. And then action item, continue to dedicate town funds for acquisition consistent with the above named goals. So I think that's been happening. To whatever degree, you know, depends on the situation. Establishing municipal capacity for proactive acquisition, research, grant writing, grant administration. So not sure if that was done or anybody knows how we're doing with that. I suppose that'll be another one of the question marks. Okay, here's a good one. Monitor the status of land certified under chapter 61A.
That brings up that letter we got today.
Yeah, so I guess we're talking about it here, but you know, under old business, we always have a topic that we have been monitoring, which is in the Centerville Cranberry Bog. So we did receive a communication from the Friends group who offered up some suggested guidelines that can be adopted to help address this issue. So I would look to our meeting next month to talk about that some more, because I think you all just got that email today. But we could have that, you know, everyone have a chance to look at that and have a discussion on that in our March meeting. Continue to leverage town funding for open space protection by pursuing partnerships, private organizations, nonprofits, public entities. So I think that sounds good. They're doing what they can to get outside support. 1.3, promote policy regulatory measures to protect open space. Continue town land use policy of undevelopment for traffic mitigation and associated open space protection.
Is that being done, do you think?
Hmm?
Is that being done?
Yeah, I'm curious, because that's something in my old life when I was working, I was very interested in, is sometimes, you know, you're building things or you're concentrating development here or there, but sometimes it makes sense to, you know, acquire or reduce the impact in one area so that, you know, instead of just building up more roads, for example. But I don't know how much of that's happening, so maybe that's another question mark.
Yeah.
I have a question, if you don't mind. If the Barnstable Land Trust is engaging with undevelopment. Is that something we can take credit for in our open space plan? What do you think, Kyle?
I mean, take credit, I don't really, like, there's not like,
Well, it's being
nobody's
done.
really checking to see that we accomplish these goals other than us. So it's really up to us.
Sure.
Situation, you know?
Yeah, I think it's good to acknowledge it, because if that in fact is
It's
happening,
still
if
being
they're,
accomplished in our municipality.
you know, if they're taking development and then restoring it, you know, back to natural state,
The previous action said leverage partnerships.
yeah.
True.
Okay, evaluate success of our open space, residential development cluster ordinance. So I guess that's a question mark, if that's being done or done.
Through conservation.
I know it has been utilized in the past, I don't know how many times.
Okay, 1.4, promote non-regulatory measures to preserve open space. Identify prioritized parcels through protection, easement, through easements, conservation restriction, other needs. So, you know, again, I guess if you're listing individual parcels, you know, how that works exactly. Review protection status of town land bank, conservation land, evaluate the need for additional protection by conservation restriction or other means, or for a specific purpose. Anybody have a comment?
I think maybe we should promote more public volunteer activities on conservation lands where we can, like, you know, a day when you have volunteers go out and remove invasive species. Or a day when people who are qualified can go out to a certain parcel and identify species. So you have a list of species on that property if it's a piece of land that's been preserved for biodiversity. But somehow get the public more involved somehow by having volunteer days. I know a lot of towns do it and they have, you know, dozens of people go out and they pull out invasive species and it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
It seems like that would be something an open space committee would, you know, like the walking weekends, it's another public thing that we could do.
Yeah, well, could get on what you'd say, get in on the bio blitzes that happen every
Yeah.
year.
I mean, AmeriCorps has always been helpful too in doing inventory of plants or, you know, helping to remove plants. And I know I've worked with them through land trusts. I don't know if they do anything with the town, but they just come to mind.
Mm-hmm.
That they could maybe facilitate some of it, because they do seem to have people available.
Right.
What they're doing.
So I guess it's key to have support from the land managers, whoever, again, you know, there's the different parcels, conservation and land bank and all that. So, you know, I think it's still good to have in the plan, you know, implementing it, I think would be great. So I'll probably just finish up on goal 1 tonight, because, you know, we don't want to drag on too long, but reviewing town land management plans for conservation areas, update as necessary.
Where's that?
Actually, did I skip over something?
On 1.5E, which is the town implementing, completing restoration projects like Stewart's Creek, Bridge Creek, Rendezvous Creek.
Mm-hmm.
What about the Open Space Committee putting some kind of pressure on them to complete these projects? A lot of them have been stalled for years, and maybe part of our job should be to put a little pressure on them to get these things done. I don't know. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's part of our
Yeah, I know.
job, but
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly make recommendations, that's really our role, right?
yeah.
And town council is here right now, so
Yeah, I know.
they're the ones that
Chris, what do
then
you
take.
think?
Well, maybe we should just ask, if through planning or the conservation, division, what's the status of those restoration projects? Maybe some are complete and we don't know that, you know?
No.
Mhm.
Some are just in limbo.
But I mean, there's been work on, what's the road going down to the yacht club? Is that Ocean Street? No. What's the one, it
Yes,
floods. Is that Ocean Street? Where it
It's
floods?
where they're putting the bike path in.
Yeah.
The underwater bike path.
I know it is wet there.
Yeah, very well. Yeah, I mean, when there's, yeah, but I mean, I've seen, they're out there working on it. I'm not exactly sure what the remedy is being, but
Okay. All right, let's go, keep going here a little bit, a few left here. 1.5.f, identify opportunities to develop existing open spaces with self-sustaining improvements such as coastal mitigation nursery. So what is a coastal mitigation nursery? Just curious.
There's
I
one.
think that
there's-
that's going to occur through the county at the county farm property on Route 6A. I believe that is, in one of my other hats as a master gardener, there was an announcement at the master gardener meeting of that project going forward at the county farm. So that would be, maybe we could ask the county to come speak to us the way we have town departments speak to us about.
You probably could just give us an update by email.
Who would be the contact at the county?
At the county,
Yeah.
the extension service, Russell Norton.
Okay, Centura Preserve, establish a management plan, a 5-member management team. How's that going, Tracy?
It's going. Grace scheduled a meeting for, I think, I don't have my phone, so I can't tell you the date, but we're meeting in February sometime. State, Mashpee, and Barnstable. It's gonna be a Zoom meeting, most likely. And I would hope that we have the minutes of the last meeting we had. I haven't seen those yet, but we are meeting again shortly.
And is there any kind of management plan at this point?
No, I couldn't say that there is. There's no definite plan. I mean, as I've mentioned to you, most of the land falls in Mashpee. They manage it as they see fit, basically. And I mean, they feel that they are the stewards of that piece of ground for the most part. Either the state doesn't really get involved in any way, so that I've seen so far, and I think we're still trying to figure out where we fit into the equation as well.
Okay. We'll keep our eyes on that.
Just a question, Tracy, is the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe also involved? I know that when we had a site visit there last year, there were tribal members with the MITC grant program at the Herring Run.
I haven't seen them anywhere except at the Herring Run. That's where they seem to be involved. But I haven't seen their presence anyplace else.
There was an issue with some of the trail relocation and the status of some of that land with the being sacred to the Wampanoag. There was an issue
was
at that meeting, the site
was that
visit,
the ladder
Yeah, I
issue?
think it was a bluff up above the
the
lake.
bluff
Yeah.
that runs along
Right,
up above where the fish ladder is.
yeah. Chucky Green used to be involved in a lot of stuff like that, but I don't know what he's doing. He's still with us.
When the land was purchased, it was done with CPC money from Mashpee, Barnstable, and the state. And that's the three groups that were involved with setting up this coalition. So although the tribe has some affinity to that and history with that property, they were not formally part of the management team because of the way it was purchased when it was scheduled to be a golf course,
Oh,
Cape Club.
Okay, we have support for fish passages, treating stormwater and shellfish sites, including Hinckley's Pond. So I don't know if there'd be other locations we'd wanna include in that list. Exploring eligibility of land acquisition projects under coastal estuarine land conservation plan in order to seek funding. Okay, so another question mark on that. And then continuing efforts with the Cape Cod Commission to study sea level rise. And several items under there. So I guess we'll look for an update on that as well. So the departments that are involved with that would identify PDD, which I believe is the Planning and Development Department. So at some point, maybe the planning folks will provide an update. So I'm not gonna, we're getting kind of late, so I'm not gonna go through the next sections. I think what I like to do, and so we're not really reading through every single one, is that everybody do their homework some more and look through the list, and then if there are specific items that you'd like to have more discussion on at the next meeting, we can kind of go through those and.
you mean like kind of what to keep and what not to keep kind of thing?
Well, which one do you have concerns about, which ones do you have questions about, which ones do you think you have some ideas about?
If there's any that you know you're gonna want to have included in the next one, I think we'd wanna know that, so we can, make sure the consultant knows that. So if there's any of the goals you're like, that's definitely hasn't been done and it's still a priority, wanna know that.
I know, but it goes back to
So
what's
if
been
you're
done.
so that's like, if you're
Yeah.
wondering what the status is, let us know which ones you want us to figure out updates on.
Yeah,
I can do my best to
Yeah,
consult with the parties that are responsible. I don't know what the status of like any of these either.
Sure.
You guys actually probably know better than most of these than I do, but I can reach out to the
yeah, I
relevant
mean,
departments for any of them that you want an update on. Just let me know specifically which ones. Or if it's the whole one, I can try that. It's gonna take a
yeah,
while.
I mean, you might have to
It's gonna
because
take a
how do
while.
you-
I know that, like, we did this exercise for the local comprehensive plan when we were first updating the local
Yeah.
comprehensive plan, and it took months, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It took months. So I'm not sure that I will be able to get a status on every single one. So that's why it's like, which ones are the priorities for you guys that you definitely wanna have a status on? And I can get working on those.
Well, I didn't see really much in there that was bad, right? I mean, they all,
the goals are fine. There's no-
It's just too.
What's
just-
the
we just know what
movement
the-
on them?
yeah.
Right.
And so if they've been accomplished, then
Right, they-
we could cross it off the list, right?
Excise.
So I get, that's what we don't really know.
Yeah.
But do we still need the list of town-owned properties too?
Yes.
Well, there's a list of all those properties in the back of this thing, at the end of it.
There's
They're all
index.
listed, yep. They're
Okay.
listed as what,
Okay,
who's sort of in charge of them, like whether it's the Housing Authority or the
okay.
Conservation
Well, that's good.
Commission or the BLT or whatever. They're all listed.
So I didn't necessarily notice, was there a list of CRs in there? Because that's.
Yes, there were.
Oh,
I
there
think
is?
there were.
Okay.
Yeah, I looked at it very
I've read it
quickly.
twice if I had
Okay.
to.
Doug read the whole thing just recently.
Yeah, I
I've
think
read
so.
it a couple times. One of the things that I had brought up at a meeting 3 or 4 months ago was making a priority to connect the sidewalks, multi-use paths, and the conservation areas so that one didn't have to drive to a conservation area and park where there is limited parking to then go for a walk and then come back and get in your car. And that actually is in the 2018 plan. And that would be something that I think that has not been realized yet. And looking at where and even because it's in the planning stage with the Cape Cod Rail Trail, where it's going to pass through conservation land, for example, that it's a state path, but it appears to me like it's going through town of Barnstable land, owned by the town of Barnstable.
And I'll suggest that some of the goals are not gonna change. We're always gonna wanna protect our water, so I think that
Goals are fine.
that'll never
Yeah.
go away, it'll just say continue to blah blah.
Yeah.
I think that will be identified.
So I think we touched on several of the old business items already. If there's anything else people need or want to share? Yes?
So we're not gonna do this Centerville Cranberry Bog issue?
Yeah, I would like to do that at the next meeting, because you just got that email right today, right? So have folks hopefully look at that. I don't know if you want to share anything regarding it.
It appears that it is the same. I
Okay.
mean, I have a family member who lives 5 houses down from the Cranberry Bog. There's also other neighbors there. The neighborhood really does not want that to be a building site and would like to keep it open space. It's been for years a great place to walk for everybody. The whole neighborhood is used to walking that whole bog a couple times. And it has always stayed clean. People walk their dogs, they pick up their dogs. There's a lot of energy to keep it, but they don't quite know how to get there from here.
But it sounds like from what the town attorney wrote, that they shouldn't have been able to buy it because the town had right of first refusal. And the purchaser did not go through the proper channels before purchasing it, so that it sounds like the sale should be void.
Yeah. I mean, this is 2021.
Yeah, it's like nothing's been done. When did they purchase it?
I don't have the date, but it was a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it's void because they didn't follow the proper procedure.
Well, it's believed it should be void, but that's,
Well, that's what the town attorney's saying.
right.
Well, we can make a
It looks
recommendation,
like it was
certainly.
before 21.
I recommended it be
Yeah.
voided.
Okay, we can do that. So, yeah, I'd like to carry that discussion as an agenda item on the next meeting. And let's see, as far as the other items, I guess we'd go to Ms. Clark for any updates from the council.
No update
Okay,
from the council point of view.
all right. I think, we have public comment. I didn't print the whole agenda. Satchel, did you have anything to share, or?
No.
Okay. Just interested party, great.
Great.
I will say, looking at my phone, there's multiple versions of the 2018 open space plan on the internet.
Yeah.
And one of them contains all of the appendices and the most recent one does not.
Right, right.
Actually, I was checking as well, and the appendices are on its own link.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, because didn't we run into that
Yeah.
earlier? Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
hefty file.
Yeah.
So that can be a recommendation of
So
our
let's
next plan,
plan it up.
is that it's, accessible and
Well,
easy
it's
to
just,
find.
it's a big lift, it's a big
Probably
file.
gonna have to be broken up again, to be honest with
It's a
you.
big file.
It's just because of the file size, you can't put it all in one file.
Unless
Plus,
we
it'll
get-
probably take like 10 minutes for it to load if it's all in one.
The draft version has them all in one file. It doesn't matter. Just, if you Google it,
We don't
you
do it
get the
because,
one
we
with
don't
the
do it,
appendices.
it's more work for us to do it. Like, we're not doing it because we want to.
Yeah,
We're doing
don't
it
go
'cause
there.
IT says
Yeah.
it has.
And maybe our next plan will be a little slimmer. Who knows?
Yeah,
We can
so
hope.
maybe we can, yeah.
Clearly,
Open it
all
up.
of the goals were maybe too many to measure and track over the last 6 years, so possibly that's a
Yeah.
way to streamline the page count as well.
Yeah.
It's also a cumbersome format, that I would say. It's,
It's always a battle between trying to include as much information as possible and contextualize items and trying to make it as readable and brief as possible. Having
Or
the local comprehensive plan, same issue,
Oh, okay.
so.
Do you want to explain the recipe that comes from the state
With being eligible for funding,
for the open space and recreation?
yeah, I think everybody's aware, we have to maintain eligibility for certain state grants, so we technically expire in August, but I'm sure if the state knows we're working diligently towards its completion, we'll get, a couple month grace period, but that's really the big push, just in terms of getting us updated. We wanna stay in good standing with the Department of Conservation Services from the state. Just gives a lot of good grants for land acquisition and things of that nature.
But my understanding is that the state has certain requirements for this plan.
Yeah, that's why we need a consultant, because they're the ones that help us make sure that we get it certified through the state and we, do all of the requirements, so.
how long does that process take after we formulate a plan?
That's a good question. I don't anticipate that would be a long process, because there's a department that reviews this at the state, although I say that, and we also applied for a grant of $20,000 through the state to help us update our open space plan. We were supposed to hear back in November on that, and we still haven't heard back, so. You don't really know, it's like you're at the will of the state and somewhat federal government at that
The
point.
reason I asked that question is because some of these conservation restrictions have been going on for years.
Yeah.
And they seem like somewhat simple items, and they, some of them are 4 or 5 years.
Well, approving of the open space plan, once it gets past once the town council approves it, in terms of the state reviewing of that approval, that's something that should be pretty cookie cutter for them. They see 1 million of these plans, so they just want, does it have the right components, that kind of stuff, so.
351.
They should be pretty used to it by
Pages,
now.
yeah.
Okay, so I guess I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.